Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we send blessings and salutations to our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and his family and the Sahaba radiyallahu an. May Allah bless us with his mercy and forgive us of our mistakes. My dear brothers, this week I'm sure you have all been watching the videos that have been coming out of Gaza, of the destruction. I know we've seen this over the last year and more as well, but this week we have seen as the people, they go back to where their homes were. You've seen the vivid pictures of absolutely everything destroyed, especially the north of Gaza, everything. Literally, you hardly can see a building standing. And then we watch the emotion of the people as they go back and they sit on the rubble of where their houses were. They sit there and they're crying out of knowing that everything that they built up is destroyed. Everything is gone. Yet you see the firmness of their iman and they say, we are rebuilding what we had before. You see them rebuilding their masjids. The first thing they think is we need a place of prayer. So they go and build their place of prayer just out of, metal poles and plastic and carpets on the floor. No buildings. And maybe, yes, obviously when we saw the dying children and the mothers and the fathers, when we saw the dying people, of course that was worse. Now we're looking at rubble and buildings. But maybe this, we feel it because you can try to imagine that. Imagine you go home to your house and it's a rubble. So you can kind of think that what if that was to happen to me? Maybe that has a different effect on us. And this then led me to think, imagine their conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Yawm al-Qiyamah versus our conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Their conversation is going to be, Ya Allah, everything I had was destroyed. I had no food. They bombed me. They bombed my family. They killed my mother, my father, all my children. They killed people. I had nothing. Ya Allah, I still kept my firm belief in you. Their conversation with Allah is going to be one where they say, Allah, everything was taken away from me. So while I say the rest of my bayan, I want you to think what your conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be like. Because their conversation, we can think about it. Because everything for them has been destroyed. And then when you see all of that, you must think, everybody is saying this is a victory. This is a victory for the Muslims. This is a victory for Islam. And this is a heavy, heavy defeat for the people who enacted this genocide. And it is a victory. Because it is a victory for them. It is a victory for the resistance. Why? First, we should look at it from the perspective of they know they have lost. Why did they lose? The Israelis, the West, the Western civilization, why did they lose? Because all of their war aims, their objectives, they failed at all of them. Yes, they destroyed the buildings. They killed many, many, many people. Many say it's far more than the 47,000 that they're reporting. Over 100,000 easy. Yet, what happened? What was their objective? Destroy the resistance. But what are they saying? There are more people in the resistance today than there was then. Of course there will be, because when you occupy a people, when you oppress a people will resist. And when those people have the firmness of iman, when they have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their hearts, then they will resist. So they completely lost at this. Furthermore, they still had to come to the negotiating table to get their hostages, be it before or this time. Did they go and rescue any hostages? Maybe one or two, and even then they had to kill so many innocent people. So they still had to come to the table to get their hostages. They still have to now withdraw from Gaza. They still now have to withdraw from the Netzarim corridor. So what have they achieved? It was the Palestinians, the Muslims who celebrated the stopping of the dropping of the bombs. And it was them who themselves are having a civil war in their country now, or in their illegitimate places, that are not happy at all. Furthermore, why have they lost? The world now hates them. The world hates them. Their reputation is gone forever. Think about that. Their reputation is gone forever. In fact, even put Muslims aside, millions and millions of Americans and many, many British are now questioning, why is our leaders so hell-bent on supporting this other state in the middle of the Middle East, yet they don't care about us? There are so many people in America now saying, especially the youth, wait there, all the money is going to these other places and we are suffering. Our health service is rubbish. There's poverty in our country. They're asking the question, why is it this lobby, this Israeli lobby, AIPAC, paying hundreds of millions to put leaders in charge of our states, that their interests are for Israel and not for America? These are the questions. You know, these things can never be buried again. This is out in the open. Their reputation is destroyed forever. So anybody who thinks that, wait there a minute, Gaza, Palestine, this latest episode was not a furqan, a criteria, a stake in the ground where the future is now forever different. They can't change this. It's done. For absolutely, whether it's, we will all be dead in 100 years. Even all the families who lost a family member, yes, many died and they will be in Jannah. Their success is already guaranteed. Those people who were left behind, the fathers and mothers who lost their children, the struggles they go through, they will be rewarded for this. The children who no longer have parents, they will be rewarded for their struggles. But in 100 years, they will all be gone. We will all be gone. But 100% guaranteed, what they did will not be forgotten in 100 years. Not in 200 years, not in 500 years. It will never be forgotten because this genocide was live streamed. Everybody in the world saw this genocide. Everybody in the world saw all of your human rights meant nothing. All of your women's rights, when the women of Gaza were being killed, your women's right meant nothing. This last couple of days, someone posted like this Zionist throwing a cat from the 5th story. Some of you must have seen it. It's gone viral online. Someone throwing a cat from the 5th floor of a building. A Zionist throwing a cat. And everybody's saying, oh, look how disgusting these people are. Everybody's finding all of these things to show how disgusting these people are. They have no care for human life, let alone animal life. What happened to your animal rights and your human rights and your women's rights and your children's rights when it came to the people of Gaza and the animals of Gaza? Even the soldiers have videos of them playing, shooting animals. These are your values. So you know this, in 100 years when we're all gone, and even those who are suffering, when they're all gone, this will never be forgotten. And we need to think about this. Because you know, these are obviously we faced many difficulties. And when I say we, I'm talking about us as an ummah. The ones who face the difficulty are clearly those in Palestine, those in Gaza. But you know, every one of the prophets, especially our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they suffered difficulty. They suffered hardship. You know, it took them a lot of hardship before there was victory. And then this nicely links, hopefully you'll appreciate, to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Nasr. We all must be reciting Surah Al-Nasr in our salah because it's a short surah. We all recite it. إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ. When the victory of Allah has come and the conquest. Victory is from Allah. The conquest is talking about Fath Makkah. It's talking about when Makkah was opened to the Muslims. وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. And you see the people entering the religion of Allah in droves, in multitudes, many. This was after the 8th year of Hijri, the conquest of Makkah. The barriers dropped. You'll understand why I'm referring to this now. The barriers dropped and Muslim people came to Islam in droves. Many, many Muslims. And you'll see why this is linked. فَصَحْبِ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. Then exalt him with your praise of your Lord and ask forgiveness of him. Ask forgiveness of him. Indeed, he is ever accepting of repentance. You know, this last ayat, it should apply to us more than anybody, more than the people of Philistine. Why? Because we are the ones that need to seek forgiveness. You know, they've won. Their victory is guaranteed. They fought. They've suffered. Their victory is guaranteed. But what did we do? We did maybe a little bit. Was that enough? Maybe some of us did nothing. Clearly, that's not enough. So we need to seek that repentance. We need to be the one saying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I did what I could, or I hardly did anything. Please, Allah, you gave victory, but it wasn't through me. Or even if it was, I did very little. I need to seek repentance. And you know, when we seek repentance, we should all know the rules of repentance. One of the rules of repentance is if you seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something, if you then carry on doing that thing, then your repentance will not be accepted. A condition of repentance is you don't plan to carry on doing the thing. You know, I made a mistake, I'm going to seek forgiveness, and then tomorrow I'm going to make the same mistake. Repentance doesn't work like this. So if we're seeking repentance for doing nothing, or we're seeking repentance for doing little, then if we carry on doing nothing and we carry on doing little, then will our repentance be accepted? We have to ask ourselves this. So why do I mention the victory? Because obviously this surah is talking about victory. I'm talking about the victory that we have because, look, they failed. Because they failed, the Muslims, Islam, we were victorious. Yes, they've destroyed everything. But as I've said, in 100 years, they will remember what they did and we will be gone. And that's why they will always be losers. In fact, this just highlights that, you know, they used the best weapons. The brother mentioned it last week. Some of you may have read this book called the Palestine Laboratory. They use all of their best weapons in Palestine to test them. That's what they do. It's well known. They use their best weapons. They use it like a laboratory, as it's called, to test their weapons. They use their weapons, their planes, everything. They destroyed the place. What have they got to show for it, other than destruction and death? Yet, after all of this, many people are now either looking into Islam, either looking for the truth, asking why these governments have more of an agenda for this foreign state than their own countries. Many countries are asking it. People in this country are saying, we're suffering so much. Why are you giving money to like Ukraine and these other countries? What about the people suffering in our countries? The main message also here is, you know, there are many people amongst the non-Muslims who are sincere. They're looking for the truth. They're waiting for the truth. But they get the version of the truth from the media. And even that is not working anymore. So what happened just like from last week, you know, when there was all this stuff about grooming gangs and Elon Musk put a post out saying, oh, look, this is true, etc. Everybody was able to debunk it, but the mainstream media, they keep pushing that narrative. But if you did your research, you would know this was all false, the way they promoted it as being just a so-called Muslim problem or a Pakistani problem. Yet it's a problem from this society. It's a problem from their society. So what they can do as a state is they can push their propaganda. Be it West, be it East, be it China, be it whatever country. You know what? I saw a video of someone who, it's nothing about Islam even. He was talking about China and he was going, our government is constantly telling us to hate China. We're against China. It's the US versus China. But actually, the people there have all the things we don't have. Why do we hate them and not hate our governments who are putting us in this poverty when they are in a better situation than us? So they're questioning their own systems. Look at some of the tools they are creating, the AI tools. I work a little bit in this field. So, you know, like ChatGPT and all these tools that are now on all of your phones. They create these tools for their own benefit these tools are working against them in many places. People are coming out with lies, and someone is going on ChatGPT and going, what this person says, is this true about Islam? Because it's fed with books and knowledge and information, it's coming out going, no, the Quran has been preserved. It's not what you're saying is a lie. So their tools themselves are going against them. So my brothers, the message really is this is a victory for Muslims and it is a victory for Islam. Of course there is devastation, and there will be more, by the way, because we know that success won't come from these foreign leaders. What the likes of Trump has said and done about, oh, okay, maybe he was involved in the ceasefire, etc. Wait until you see what they're going to do in West Bank. So this victory is not from them. This is the victory that those who fought made for themselves. So this is just like a temporary situation, but we need to see it as a victory for us to carry on. So I'll leave you with just a few more kind of points, really. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want you to really appreciate this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing the grounds for the Muslims to be victorious further, not just in Palestine and not just in Gaza. Because what's happening, and people are seeing it, is, like capitalism, liberalism, consumerism, all of these isms and material, all of the things that people live by, they're collapsing. If you look at our history, you will see like the nations of Ad and Thamud, they were powerful nations and they collapsed. Allah destroyed them, and a part of Allah's plan is these societies and their values are being destroyed. And examples are, there's now clash between left and right about, they pushed for a long time for LGBT. This gender, that, 20 genders, 100 genders. And now Trump comes in and says there's 2 genders. That means there's a clash in their own societies. You told us your civilization was the best, and now your civilization is clashing. Then there was feminism and toxic feminism, and now there's the red pill movement. For those of you who read, they're clashing. So there's feminism versus, patriarchy versus matriarchy. Men rule versus women rule is clashing. Yeah. Then but Islam has the solutions to all of these things. So whilst their values and their systems are decaying, this is the way Allah is doing it. If you step back for a second, as much as there's been death and destruction, we're actually seeing their values and their systems and everything about them destroying. And who's standing firm? Whose values are standing firm? Islam's values are standing firm. So I'll bring you right back to what I said right at the beginning. That conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Those who fought and those who suffered in Gaza, their conversation is going to be, we're going to be frightened to listen to that conversation, because we're thinking now next is our conversation. Our conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be like, if they can sit there and go, we had nothing, we're going to stand there and go, what did I do? I had everything. I want to be there saying, Ya Allah, with everything you gave me, I did this. I tried to do this. I sacrificed wealth. I sacrificed time. Or I need to say something. Even then I feel ashamed that what I will say compared to what they will say is going to be like nothing. So that conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should think about that every single day. And when you see them and their rubble that they're sitting on now, it makes you think of that conversation. Ya Allah, allow us to work for the victory, your victory as you have promised. Ya Allah, allow us to understand your words, learn your words, and enact them, and your divine words, and enact them. Ya Allah, bless us with your tawbah and your mercy, and forgive us and all of the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam for our mistakes. Ameen. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullahi wa lakum wa lisa'il muslimin fastaghfiruhu innahu wal ghafurur rahim.